I got a text message yesterday from a number I didn't have saved. I didn't recognize the number either, so I'm like, who is this? So I opened up the text message and I see the last message I had with this person first from 2023. This was some shorty who lived in New Jersey. I completely forgot all about her. I literally have no idea or it even crosses my mind what any of my exes are doing. I don't even look at profiles or anything either. And look, whenever an ex or situationship hits me up or hits you up years later, 9 out of 10 times they want something from you. So I replied to them and we were texting for a bit, updating each other on how life has been, what's new and all that stuff. Now, listen, I met this girl at like when I was in my worst moments. I was on antidepressants and everything, and I told her everything pretty much did a 180. I'm off my medication now. Money is doing good. I'm genuinely happy with my life. I'm with someone who I feel very comfortable with and happy with. She's very loving and caring and supportive. And then she pulled an Uno reverse card on me. She quoted a message I sent her years ago. She said, first she said, "That's nice that you found someone who cares and loves about you." Then she quotes my message and she says, and it says, "Life tends to externalize what is internally going on." And I kind of thought that was interesting because she's right. A few years ago, when I was going through my worst moments, I genuinely wasn't internally happy. I felt miserable. I felt like a victim. I was angry with things going on with myself, going on with my past, and even things I felt I wasn't going to get in my future. And as a result, everything in my life was also reflecting that same outcome. But over the past year or so, I've truly started to develop care, appreciation, and love for myself. And I'm not even hard on myself anymore. I always push myself to do things because I have confidence to do it now. I treat myself way better mentally and physically. And when I started doing that, it reflected in many ways in my life. I mentioned to her, and earlier in this video, right, I said that I've been dating someone for over like half a year now, and who is very loving, caring, supportive. It's interesting how that happened, getting love, care, and support, while first I had to do that for myself, alongside other things bettering in my life once my internal mental space became more positive. The key is the I am. Literally, the two words, I am. How you speak about yourself and how you reflect upon yourself is what's going to sort of attract those same changes to your life. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to get too much into the, if you want to get into the, I wouldn't say woo-woo manifestation, law of attraction. You know where I'm going with this. But that doesn't mean, which people misunderstand a lot, this doesn't mean that misfortunes don't happen anymore, you know what I'm saying? Or rough times don't happen to me anymore. Like, my life is not perfect. I'm not like completely like boom, 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 super positivity. No, listen, this past week has been the most stressful weeks for me in my life. But I'm not letting any rough patches define who I am or how I take care of myself. Life has a very interesting way of echoing your own inner world. Carl Jung of psychological studies would also mention the concept of, quote, shadow work, which essentially spoke about the aspects of your personality that linger in you. The parts of you, whoever's watching, the parts of me, the parts of your personality that you deny or hide. And you'll deny or hide those negative traits that you have, or never want to address those things, or you probably never even think about it, or you even are aware of it because you're either subconsciously shameful of it, feel it's too negative, unacceptable, and other things. And a lot of these things are related to anger, jealousy, and fears. So I mentioned the internal mirror, the internal mirrors the external, right? Inside what happens outside. I mean it in a way of how our shadow self doesn't create enough context or self-awareness to how our own negative aspects of our personality are the same things that sabotage us. We constantly, unconsciously, ruin our own relationships. We unconsciously sabotage aspects of our life. And then we blame everyone else for it. We blame every other situation from it. Like, remember how I said earlier in the video that one of the big problems is, I even specifically paused after this. I said that I felt like a victim. That was the thing. That's the thing. That's like the worst, like, you may really genuinely be a victim of something. I'm not saying we just disregard it, but like, sometimes that was the biggest problem. A lot of things I've gone through, which I've shared in my videos with my past or like recent things, you may feel, dang, cool, some people did you completely wrong. Or this person, hey, that's unfortunate, man, that stinks. But Like, what about all the parts I contributed to? You know what I'm saying? The shadow attributes of my personality where it caused me to not see or ignore red flags or engage with something or not set enough boundaries for myself when I felt uncomfortable. We have to accept our flaws more. That's part of what shadow work is all about. You need to investigate your own flaws and imperfections in your life, not as an excuse to be a victim, but to have more tolerance and care for yourself. If you keep hiding things you hate about yourself or you suppress it only for it to come out in subconscious moments, you never really get to give yourself compassion. Ask yourself a question like, what do I most harshly judge myself about? Then see how it integrates into your subconscious personality. Then begin to work on it. By doing this, you're developing care and growth for yourself, which will ultimately cause you to value yourself even more. And even if you don't want to ask that question, right? Because maybe that question is a little bit, I don't know what I judge myself harshly for. You know, some people are like that. Well, you can ask yourself this one because this one's very easy. What traits in other people trigger me? What traits in other people trigger me? And why? And that's another good way to figure out, what subconscious, even emotional attachment that you have to certain things that make you do things you shouldn't be doing or making you act in such a negative way because, you know, it triggers you. Why does that specifically trigger you? But the next person doesn't trigger them that much. So what's going on here? You know what I'm saying? And again, it doesn't mean it's necessarily bad all the time, but if you can create a better understanding and see how you can work on it without acting in an emotional rampage or crashing out or doing XYZ where it may sabotage certain things, you know, or overconsume your life, I think that's positive then. It's not always easy and it always makes us uncomfortable, but being gentle with yourself is basically the way to start loving yourself. And hopefully the internal mental space externalizes into something better. Anyway, this episode is found on Spotify and YouTube. I'm out.